My life was over. One hateful social media post from my ex had turned my lifelong dream into a public execution. I was standing in a gallery filled with my own art, but all I could see were the judging eyes of a crowd that now believed I was a fraud. My career was dead, my reputation was in ashes, and I was sure the man I loved would walk away. But he didn't walk. What he did next didn't just save me, it silenced the entire internet. Like most stories about first love, it all started so innocently. I was a young art student named Ava, with a sketchbook full of dreams and not much else. Then I met Ethan. He was magnetic, funny, and he seemed to worship my passion for art. He called me his muse, and I, young and hopelessly in love, drank it all in. Our tiny apartment was more of a studio than a home, cluttered with canvases and the smell of turpentine. He was my biggest supporter, or so I thought. One day, Ava, he'd whisper at night, the whole world is going to know your name, and I'll be right there beside you. It sounded like a promise, but looking back, I realized it was a threat. The cracks in our perfect world were so small at first, I barely noticed them. That's the thing about emotional abuse, isn't it? It doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a whisper, a tiny drop of poison that makes you question yourself, until you forget who you were before you ever met them. When I got into a small gallery show, he'd say, "Isn't that a little beneath you?" When a professor praised my work, he'd mutter, "He's just trying to get something from you." He slowly poisoned my confidence, isolating me from friends he called a bad influence, and from family who didn't understand my dreams. His world became my only world, and in that world, he was the only one who truly believed in me. The breaking point came when I won a full scholarship for a semester abroad in London. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. I was ecstatic, but Ethan's reaction was like a bucket of ice water. "So you're just going to leave me?" he asked, his voice devoid of any warmth. "After everything I've done for you?" I tried to explain it was just for a few months, that it was for my career, for our future. But all he saw was betrayal. The fight was ugly. He called me ungrateful, selfish. And for the first time, I saw a possessive, chilling anger in his eyes that terrified me. I got on that plane to London with a broken heart, but also with a strange, exhilarating sense of release. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even with a broken heart. You don't realize it at the time, but you're not just leaving a person, you're walking back toward yourself. London was a rebirth. I poured all my pain and freedom onto the canvas, painting with a ferocity I hadn't felt in years. One evening at a small gallery where one of my paintings was on display, my life changed again. A man in a perfectly tailored suit stood in front of my piece for a long time. He had an aura of quiet authority that was almost intimidating. When he finally turned to me, he had a thoughtful smile on his face. "Your work has a soul," he said, his voice deep and gentle. "You don't paint what you see, you paint what you feel." The man was Julian Croft. The Julian Croft, a billionaire tech titan and one of the most influential art collectors in the world. I was so starstruck I could barely speak. But he was nothing like I expected. He was genuine, asking insightful questions about my process, my inspirations. We talked for hours that night, and he saw more than just an artist. He saw me. He understood the sadness in my brushstrokes and the hope in my use of color. What started as a mentorship, with Julian becoming my patron and opening doors I'd only ever dreamed of, quickly evolved into something more. Our conversations shifted from art to life, to our fears and our futures. With him, I never felt like a project. I felt like a partner. He challenged me, celebrated my successes, and encouraged my independence. He was the opposite of Ethan in every conceivable way. Where Ethan had clipped my wings, Julian built me a runway. After a year of relentless work, I was on the cusp of my greatest achievement. My first solo exhibition in a prestigious New York gallery, made possible by Julian's belief in me. The art world was buzzing. It was the moment every artist dreams of, and it was the one thing Ethan could not stand to see happen. The harassment started with anonymous emails. Then came DMs from fake accounts. Finally, he called me. His voice was laced with scorn. "Enjoying the high life, Ava? Guess you forgot about me pretty quickly now that you've got your billionaire sugar daddy." I hung up and blocked him, but he always found a new way to get through. He threatened to tell the world the truth about how I'd used him. I didn't tell Julian. I wanted to handle my past on my own. It was a mistake. The night of the opening arrived. The gallery was packed. Critics, collectors, my friends. Everyone was there. Julian was by my side, his hand a warm, steady presence on my back. It was perfect. Then, I felt my phone vibrating nonstop in my purse. A friend rushed over, her face pale. "Ava," she whispered, "you need to see this." And there it was. Ethan's post. A long rambling manifesto spread across every social media platform, going viral in real time. He'd posted old, private photos of me in pajamas with no makeup. But the text was the real poison. He had doctored old text messages, twisting my words to make it seem like I'd been plotting to use him for connections. He painted a picture of a cold, calculating gold digger who had callously dumped him the second a richer man came along. The lies were so detailed, so plausible, that for a horrifying second, even I started to doubt my own memory. The post ended with a chilling line. "Don't be fooled by the innocent artist act. I'm just warning the world about the snake I once loved." The effect was instantaneous. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Phones came out. The looks of admiration turned to suspicion, then to contempt. My dream was imploding. There's a unique kind of pain in being judged by 1,000 strangers for a story that isn't even true. You feel like you're screaming the truth, but no one can hear you over the noise of the lie. I mumbled an apology and fled, running from the whispers and the stares. I locked myself in my apartment and just fell apart. It was over. My career, my reputation. And Julian, he would leave. How could he not? The world thought I was a con artist. Hours passed. The online articles started appearing. Scandals surrounding Julian Croft's new artist girlfriend. The dark past of a rising star. It was a public crucifixion. I waited for the inevitable press release from Julian's team. A carefully worded statement distancing himself from me to protect his own name. It was the logical thing to do. Even I expected it. Then, in the eye of the digital hurricane, something impossible happened. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a statement from a lawyer. It was a post on Julian Croft's personal, verified Instagram account. A single post that flipped the world back on its axis. It was a photo of us taken a few weeks earlier, walking at sunset, laughing and holding hands. It was an intimate, joyful moment. But it was the caption that brought the internet to a screeching halt. 5 simple sentences that were more powerful than 1,000 lies. "I am thrilled to announce my engagement to the love of my life, and the most talented artist I know. Ava is the most genuine and kind soul I have ever met. The wedding is next month. We will not be making any further comments on malicious and defamatory lies. Any further slander will be met with legal action." Silence. Then, an explosion. The hashtags morphed from hashtag Ava the Gold Digger to hashtag Ava and Julian. The comments under Julian's post were a tidal wave of support. This is what real love looks like. He didn't just defend her. He honored her. Ethan's post became a laughingstock. His attempt to destroy me had backfired, destroying him instead. He had tried to start a wildfire, and Julian had responded with an ocean. It wasn't a defense. It was checkmate. A knock came at my door. I knew it was him. I opened it, and he just stepped inside and wrapped me in his arms. I sobbed into his chest, letting out all the pain and terror in overwhelming relief. "Why?" I whispered when I could finally speak. "Why would you do that?" He smiled softly, wiping away my tears. "Because it's the truth," he said. "I love you. I was going to propose to you tonight, after the show. The ring has been in my pocket for weeks." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. That pathetic man's tantrum just moved up my schedule. I refused to let the world doubt what you mean to me for a single second. I didn't want to save you from the storm, Ava. I wanted to dance in the middle of it with you and show everyone that what we have is unbreakable. In that one moment, I understood the difference between a man who wants to own your light and a man who wants to stand in it with you. One builds a cage, the other builds a launch pad. He hadn't just saved my reputation. He had restored my faith in everything. The next day, my exhibition was completely sold out. People came to see the art of the woman from the story, but I was no longer the victim. I was the artist who was loved, the woman who was respected, Ethan's social media accounts were suspended, and Julian's lawyers made sure his campaign of terror was over for good. We were married a month later, in a small, intimate ceremony. As I stood there, I thought about that moment when I believed my life was over. I was so wrong. It was just beginning. The darkest night of my life had been the prelude to the most beautiful dawn I could ever imagine. It taught me that while others will always try to write your story for you, in the end, you are the only one holding the pen. If you believe that true love and support can conquer anything, please share this story. Hit that subscribe button for more stories that prove the heart is stronger than the hate. And remember, never let the voices of your critics drown out the truth of who you are.